Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the National Timely Action Hour. This is the show where we talk about everything from comic books to Star Wars and everything in between. My name is Aiden, and I hope that you're doing well today. So, at the time of recording, it is almost the end of January of 2026. Now, back in December of 2025, I did a review of The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. And I thought I should do the sequel to that novel. So today I'm going to be doing a review of The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien. Originally published in 1954, The Fellowship of the Ring is book one of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, one of the most critically and commercially successful novel series in history. And this is definitely my favorite novel series, and I'm sure if you're watching this, it's yours as well. And I first heard of Tolkien's work when I saw the film adaptation of The Fellowship of the Ring. And, not long after I'd finished watching it, I had learned that it was based off of a book, since, it says in the credits. But when I first saw a copy, I saw, oh my goodness, this is one of the longest books I've ever seen, ever. And, it took me a while to actually read the book, but when I did, I fell in love. I thought if I loved the movie, then it stands to reason that I would love the book, and I was correct. Although Book 3, The Return of the King, is my favorite novel of all time, I still hold the first two books in high regard. And with everything that I review on my show, I recommend that you read it or watch it or listen to it yourself. But to give you the brief synopsis, The Fellowship of the Ring follows the nephew of the previous book's protagonist, Bilbo Baggins. His nephew Frodo is the lead of this trilogy. And we're introduced to Frodo in chapter 1, and he's a very likable character. He's very well written, in my opinion. All of Tolkien's novels are very well written, in my opinion. Like I said, the third book is my favorite, so I have to enjoy his writing style. Although my only criticism that I can logically lay before this book and its two sequels is that it does tend to drag on for a bit, but with all fairness and all due respect to the author, he was building one of the most elaborate fictional worlds ever. So one could make the argument that it is necessary, but as a critic in this sense, it does, and as a reader, it does, tend to take away a slight bit from the experience of reading this and enjoying it. But in terms of obsessing over the lore, it gives people plenty of things to discuss and debate as to what the meaning is, whether it should be taken literally or, if there's a deeper meaning, etc., etc. In any book club or lecture, you'll find people disagreeing on any book, not just these ones, but, any fictional story. But that's the only major criticism I have for it. But to get into the synopsis, Frodo Baggins inherits the magic ring that Bilbo had found in Smeagol's cave in The Hobbit, and as it turns out, it is the magical ring, the one ring to rule them all, created by the Dark Lord Sauron, who is the personification of evil in this world, unless of course you count Morgoth, because Sauron is an agent of Morgoth, but that's from the Silmarillion. That's all backstory, not in the book itself, but published later on. And I figured since I'm discussing The Lord of the Rings, I should have a tall boy of beer. So this is a German brand called Kostritzer. I'm unfamiliar with them, but I am really enjoying this. Anyways, so Frodo learns from Gandalf the origin of the ring, and so Frodo and his servant Samwise Gamgee, who is after Bilbo's adventure, he became so rich that he bought enough land to become a lord. I believe an earl or a baron, regardless. But Bilbo is a lord, and so when he leaves all of his belongings and possessions to Frodo, Frodo inherits that land and title and wealth. So, and Samwise is a servant of the homestead, and so Sam joins Frodo on his quest to bring this ring to Rivendell, which is where they had met up with Lord Elrond in The Hobbit. That's his kingdom. And from there, before they leave, they're also joined by Merry and Pippin, who are two local fellows who overhear, who they run into on their way out of town. Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin go to Rivendell, where Elrond gathers together a council of representatives from around Middle-earth. Gimli, who's a dwarf lord, Legolas, who's an elven prince, Aragorn, who's the king of Gondor, and Boromir, who is a captain of Gondor, although Aragorn is in exile, and but he is the rightful king of Gondor, and so that's why the third book is called The Return of the King. But that's jumping ahead a bit. But when they're in their council meeting, they decide, okay, so this is Sauron's ring. He is evil incarnate, unless, of course, you count Morgoth, but that's a story in and of itself. But what do we do? And so they're like, okay, well, how about we take it to Mount Doom, where Sauron forged it, throw it into the volcano, and let it be destroyed. So they agree on that. They disagree a bit on who should take this quest. Then Frodo volunteers, and the others volunteer to help him in his quest. And so from there, they go on a journey throughout the land, and they go into the Mines of Moria, which is the home of Balin, who is one of the dwarves from The Hobbit, who's the cousin of Gimli. And unfortunately, it's been 60 years since The Hobbit, and within that time, orcs killed Balin and most of their people. They fight this demon called the Balrog, and from there they escape the mine. They continue their journey into the woodlands, where they run into Galadriel, who's the elf queen of that area. And also, Lord Elrond's daughter Arwen is the wife of Aragorn. But Galadriel, the queen of the elves, helps them by giving them supplies and some blessings and some magical equipment. Then they continue on further, and Boromir heroically sacrifices himself to save Merry and Pippin after he was seduced by the malice of the ring. He tried to steal it from Frodo, but he overcomes the evil, and he heroically sacrifices himself to save the others. And it's a very tragic and beautiful ending for such a well-written character. And overall, this book, and so the book ends on a cliffhanger with Merry and Pippin being kidnapped by the Uruk-hai, which is this offshoot of orcs created by Saruman, who is the former boss of Gandalf in the Order of Wizards. He's turned evil and is working with Sauron and Sauron's forces from his kingdom Mordor. But Saruman betrays Gandalf. He creates the Uruk-hai. They kidnap Merry and Pippin after Boromir heroically sacrifices himself to save them. And so they go further into the wilderness, and that's where the story ends, with Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas going after Merry and Pippin, and Frodo and Sam going off on their own to bring the ring to Mordor to destroy it. So on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being horrific and 10 being amazing, I would have to give this book a 9. Like I said, the only criticism that I can logically place against it, in my personal opinion and taste in literature, is that it does tend to drag on. But, you know, that is because they are building a world. He is building a world basically from the ground up. I mean, yes, there was The Hobbit that had been published, you know, almost 20 years prior. But, you know, he's like, well, I got to expand the world, so I got to, you know, write out all these charts and graphs about how the world works, who lives here, what do they do, what's their deal, what's the history of this place, what's their language. And so I understand why it drags. It just does slightly take away from the story, in my opinion. I'm sure there are others who might agree with me, and I'm certain that there are people who disagree with me. That is completely fair. But yeah, I love this book, and I love the film adaptation of it, although there are plot points and characters that are omitted from the film. For example, before they really get into their journey, they meet a man named Tom Bombadil, who is this mystical character who might be an allegory for God. We don't know for sure. It's very hotly debated amongst Tolkien fanatics, but I tend to think that that is very possible. I mean, if you look at Tolkien's friend C.S. Lewis, his book series, The Chronicles of Narnia, it's very overt that Aslan is based on Jesus Christ, my Lord, my God, and you know, it's a very beautiful story. So one could surmise that Tom Bombadil does fit into that category, but you know, it's up for debate still, even, you know, 60 plus years later, 70 years later. Geez, these books are old, but still fantastic. There's also Glorfindel, who is Arwen's brother, who helps them, and in the film it's changed so that Arwen helps them to give her more screen time, because she's seldom in this book and in the others as well, but you know, they do a good job of expanding her role in the film adaptations, because they're like, okay, well, there's not a lot of women in here, so I guess we can expand some of their character arcs. I mean, there's Éowyn in the second and third book, and she's the Princess of Rohan, which is one of the kingdoms, which is the kingdom that they go to at the end of this. And we spend most of the time there in the second book. I'm getting ahead of myself, but anyway, I definitely recommend this book if you're interested in high fantasy. This really is the start of the high fantasy genre, because before this, fantasy books were more aimed at children, whereas this is for more teenagers and adults. But children can still read it and enjoy it. I mean, I first read it when I was like maybe 6. Yeah, I think it was 6 when I first read it. But yeah, that's all I have for you today on this video of the National Timely Action Hour. Once again, my name is Aiden. If you enjoyed this video, then please click the like button. And if you're new to my show and want to check out more videos like this, please subscribe and ring the bell to be notified when I post new videos. I have all of my videos for 2026 scheduled, although there are some that I'm going to have to throw in there, because of movies that are coming out that I want to review, and just random videos that I might think of. But also, if you want to suggest future videos and leave your thoughts on this book, then please leave a comment. And in the description of the video, I'll leave a link to my podcast. So if you'd like to listen to me yap about Lord of the Rings and Spider-Man and Superman and all that, but you don't have time to watch a full video, then please consider subscribing to my podcast and sharing that with your friends as well, if they're interested in this sort of content. And also please share this video if they're interested in this sort of content. And I'll also, in the description, leave links to my Patreon page and merch store. So if you'd like to support this show financially, I'd greatly appreciate that. And I'll also leave links to my social media profile so you can send me messages and stay up to date. Thank you so much for watching, and I sincerely hope that you all have a wonderful day. Bye.